Hello everybody. In this video I want to show you how to punch holes in things in Pixlr. Okay, so we're going to punch holes in a layer so that you can see the layer underneath using text. And the trick to using text and punching holes is that we are going to take the text, which is in a special format called a vector format. And we can't punch holes with the vector format text by itself. We have to do what's called rasterizing it, turning it into pixels. And then what we'll do is we'll select all those pixels, we'll invert it, and use that as the basis to create a new mask. And we'll have the mask created on the layer that we want to punch the holes in. That creates a non-destructive hole punching thing that doesn't involve actually deleting the content in case we want to change our minds or repurpose that same couple of layers for another reason down the road. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you what we're talking about here. Okay, so we'll start out with the pixlrtemplates.com, which I'm just imagining, say, you might be in a situation where you want to create a specific size, and I have all the sizes for all the different social media types of things here. So this gets you started. So I just went to the YouTube format, so we'll create a 1280 by 720, which is what they suggest for the YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that. Okay, for YouTube thumbnails. Okay, I might have just frozen up a bit as this page loaded in because it's pretty intensive. Okay, so as you see, we've got this blank here, and we have some layers over here and the history palette. What I usually do to get started is I pull a history palette out of the way, and that's our undo history, by the way. And then I drag this out and it'll make it longer because I know I'm going to have a bunch of layers. And so rather than having one being hidden where I have to scroll to get to them, I just do it this way. So for our first example, we're just going to fill this layer up with a color, and so it's a nice bright color. I'll click here on the color palette down here and make it so it's a fully saturated color, and go with our background layer being vivid yellow. Okay, and there we go. And I'm going to get out the paint bucket tool, which, by the way, you see if you hover over it, it tells you what the tool is, what the shortcut is. And I just click on the background and bingo, I have a layer that's filled up with a color. Alright, so that was easy, right? So now let's go make another layer, and this will be the layer that we're actually going to punch the holes in. So you see it starts out blank, and I purposely created this particular document so it's transparent, so I always can tell easily where I have a transparent one. So let's just change the color, and this time we'll make it kind of an orangey color to be the top color. Why not? There we go, deep orange. And again, I just got the paint bucket tool and click on this layer. So now I have two layers, one on top of each other. I have a layer 1 and a layer 0. So now let's go get the text tool and type some text in here. Now I will warn you, I've experienced in the Chrome browser that if I'm in the view mode of full screen, this full screen mode, that my text tool doesn't seem to work. Okay, so I don't know if that's going to happen to other people, but that's happening to me on this machine, so who knows. Alright, this text will be punched out. And we'll go ahead and we'll make it bold, and we'll increase the size. Oh, I better make it a different color, eh? Just so we can see what we got in here, right? I'll just make it white. It really doesn't matter what color this is because it's going to be punched out, so that we're going to see the color that's behind. So you see it's starting out as white. It only adopted the yellow that was already selected in the color palette, by the way, in case you're wondering why it was invisible. And there you go. And I'll get out the move tool, which is the letter V, and that selects the move tool. And just kind of drag this around so you can see. Alright, so now we have that. The next step will be to use with this layer selected, will be to select all the pixels, but they're not pixels yet, they're in a vector format. So if I went up here to edit select pixels, nothing will be selected. Okay? It's because there's nothing on this layer except for vector stuff. And vector is not the same as pixels. Vector art is actually a bunch of mathematical formulas. So this text is written out or drawn out using a bunch of math formulas that describe where the lines are, how the curves are curved and stuff like that. That's what vector art is. And that's why you can resize it without it getting pixely. You can make it the size of a truck or shrink it down to the size of a business card, and it stays nice and clean with the edges being nice and clean. But we want to change this into pixels for our purposes. We might want to use this text layer again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it and say duplicate layer. Okay, and now I'm just going to turn off one of them, and that's going to kind of be my backup. The reason I'm keeping that is so I can make edits later on and just do this process again, you know, and just edit the layer. It's already there, and it doesn't really take up any space in my file. So all right, but now let's select this is the file, the layer that we're going to actually rasterize. So let's right click on it and go down here where it says rasterize layer. And bingo, you'll see it changed a little bit. What happened is it has some anti-aliasing, and so the edges were kind of given a fuzzy quality so that they blend into the other color. And that's my cat. Don't worry about my cat wanting to be part of the show. Anyway, this is edit now, and we'll go down here to select pixels, and you see it selects the pixels. But if I made a mask now using this it would chop out all the orange and just leave the white. So we have to go and invert this. Now, this is only in this particular case, okay? So let's go ahead and invert the selection. And now everything is selected but the text. So we can turn off this layer, because see, we have a selection sitting there. And then we'll select the layer that we want to punch the holes in, and go down here to the second icon at the bottom and just hit it. And bingo, it punched it out. And now we're seeing the yellow layer that's below. Okay, so you can see the possibilities here for how you could use this. Now, the best thing to do at this point is to save, but not save as the JPEG or the PNG that you're going to want down the road. Let's save it as a layered file, a PXD, which is the Pixlr layered format. Okay, and that keeps all of these layers that we've created, so we can come in here and recycle this whole thing and just quickly make some edits, and we're pretty much done, right? So go ahead and put this on my desktop, and I'll call it some punched out text, and save it. So now I have this on my desktop to use in the future. Get it? Okay, that's cool, eh? All right, now we can go ahead and save again, and save as a JPEG or a PNG. Usually, it's always good to kind of compare the two. It shows you down here how big this file would be as a PNG. A little bit, 9K, okay? But let's go ahead and pick the JPEG and see what size it would be there. 43K, that's substantially different. Well, see, PNG handles flat colored regions a little bit better than JPEG does. So we'll go ahead and save this as a PNG, because that way if we're using it on a website, it's the fastest download. Now, a lot of times, if there's any kind of content in there, not a lot of flat areas, the very opposite's going to be true. If it's like a nature photo or something like that, PNG has a hard time converting those, and you wind up with a much larger file than you would for the JPEG. So in those cases, nature photos and things with a lot of detail in them, for those, use JPEG. For things with a lot of flat areas in them, use PNG. PNG has other nice things though. If you're going to have some transparency in your file, like you're using it for a lower third or for a video overlay, then you'll want to be able to save it as the PNG, because that retains your transparency, so that you can the areas that you can see through. So basically, you just click this, and now you could call it punched out in PNG, as you can see. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and we'll do another one real quick, but instead we'll use an image as the basis. So this way you just get it reinforced. Okay, So I can leave this open. I'll just go to Pixlr, apps.pixlr, editor, and I'll just create another 1280 by 720 file. It may freeze up again. Okay, so we'll create a new image. I'll click on the transparent. Okay, I'll drop this down and go to the very bottom. Oh, I have to actually click on that and pull it, and we'll make it movie 720. And again, this is the size they usually want for YouTube videos if you're uploading videos. And so there we have the same thing. So let's go ahead and pull this down, get out of the way, and stretch this out. But this time we're going to load up an image, and we're going to pull it right into the layer. So we'll go to Layer, Open Image as Layer, and I'll go pick out a background. So let me see, I already saved an address to go to here. And I go to the bottom, and I'll get this, let's see what would make a neat, interesting texture. Perhaps, we're talking about the background texture for the text. Perhaps this would be interesting. Yeah, we'll pick that out. Okay, so now I have this wood texture. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now it's actually got a much larger picture there, as you saw, because of the butterflies and everything being there. So I'm going to get up my move tool, and I'm going to move it around, and just imagining that maybe some of the text could be, maybe a little bit of that text could be that color. I don't know if it's going to work out. Now I'll just leave wood. Okay, so I'll take advantage of the fact that I got this nice wood in this thing. We won't need the rest of this image, which is really large. So we're going to go ahead and make like we're going to do a free transform. And I'll show you how big the image is. Really quite large. I hope I did that right. It doesn't seem to have taken. Oh, it's going very slow, actually. I'm probably crashing the computer at this point. It's not let me do anything. Okay, well, this, oh, let me hit enter. I'm going to just try this again. Okay, free transform. There we go. And now I'm simply going to hit enter, and that will chop it into place so that we have just that size. Okay, now let's make the next layer. So I'll go ahead to Layers and Open Images Layer. I'm in the same folder. This time I'll go to this train tunnel picture. Okay, and I don't want it just the background, I want the actual picture. So we'll go to Edit and Free Transform. And this time I'm going to take and grab a corner and hold down the Shift key and yank it smaller and smaller. And just keep taking a look. And okay, got to make it smaller. So grab the corner, Shift key held down. I find it's best to hold the Shift key down first. And so now we're talking. If you're wondering what on earth is going on, this is a little scale train at the Museum of Life and Science in Durham, North Carolina, going through the tunnel. Okay, so now we have a dark foreground on a lighter background that we can punch text in. Okay, so now let's make the text. So we grab our text tool and decide we're going to have it up here. And this is amazing. Terry. Text holes just where I want them. Oops. No accounting for ability to type. Okay, and we have a color. We can make a different color. Again, it does not matter what the color is because we're going to basically remove all of this, okay? and make it okay, and make it bold. Why not bold italic? There we are. And resize it a little bit. Alright, that's good. Hit OK and get the move tool. That's the letter V again on your keyboard. Picks out that move tool. And so now I'm placing my text. And so we're going to create this wood background through which you see, which the text is going to become this wood background. So I'll make my copy of this so I have it around. Duplicate layer. I'll uncheck it. Click on the other one and rasterize it. There we are. Now I go up in here and say edit, select pixels. There we go. Now I go again to edit a second time and say invert selection, so it selects everything but the pixels. And this is the magic spot. I pick the layer that I want to punch the holes in. I turn off the layer that I don't need to see. See, we don't need to see this text because we're about to make it visible by punching. And I click on this right here and boom. It's amazing, folks. It's amazing. And so, yes, indeedy. So we've punched the holes, we've created the background, and I can do things with the background layer. I can make it lighter. I can do various things. Like I might want to say I want to take that bottom layer that I didn't actually use. Remember we had that bottom layer. A new file always starts with a layer. So click in there and just make this white, and get out my paint bucket tool and just click, and now it's filled this with white. So now what I can do is I can go to this one and I can change its opacity using this little icon to the left, and change its opacity by pulling it down, and see, that lightens it up. So I'm still seeing the wood texture, but it's lighter. Okay, and you can do things like select some of these different modes in here, but we're just keeping it simple. Okay, so there you have it, a lighter text made with punching holes, and that could have been any texture we wanted, and it would have worked just fine. All right, so hope that was interesting. Again, we'll want to save the layers, so you go up and go to File, Save, and save a version, not in JPEG, but as a PXD, okay? And I won't go through it again because you saw it. Compare your JPEG size, 110 KB, with the PNG size. Look at how much bigger the PNG is because it's got so much detail, not a lot of flat areas. Okay, so from 2 megs compared to a JPEG, giving you a tiny little 110K. So I would definitely choose the JPEG to save as. All right, well that's the whole rundown on that, on punching holes in layers. And you can always come back and re-punch that hole. You don't have to keep it forever. You simply select the layer that you were working on. Let me get rid of this. You simply select the layer that had the mask on it, and you right click on the mask, which will usually be mostly green, and you say delete layer mask, and that lets you start over again. Okay, so you see I can now pick this layer. I could edit my thing, create another rasterized layer, and go in here and select pixels, and then invert it. You notice I didn't even have to have it visible for the selection to work. Go ahead and invert the selection. Select the layer to punch holes in, and punch the holes. There you go. Okay, so that's the tutorial on that. I created a sort of a checklist that you can also go down, a little printed document that you can download and go through it, check it off, and do this yourself. Okay, it's really a cool technique. There's a ton of different uses for it. Another use for this technique, in fact, is to use shapes and stuff as well as the text. You don't have to just do text. There's all these different shapes that you can make, circles and whatnot. So you could conceivably, let's go ahead and we'll get rid of this layer mask. Delete layer mask. Go back to my rasterized text layer here, which as you see is white at the moment, or sort of a purpley white. But I'll add some more to this. I'll add a, let's see, I'll tell it, heck, I won't even have it fill the shape. I'll have it, well, yeah, I want it to fill the shape. So here I'll have a mode. I can be in any kind of mode. Opacity, pick a rectangle, a rounded rectangle, a circle, or a line. So let's say I wanted to have a circle in this thing that's going to be cut out for whatever reason. Remember, I'm going to punch a hole here. And let's go ahead and make a rounded corner. There's some reason I want to punch a hole that's a rounded corner to show some of the background. There we go. There we are. And all right, so didn't have to do that. Undo. Okay, so now I have these, and these are all raster, remember, because the text was rasterized and these are rasterized. So now we're going to go up, select all the pixels, and what it does is it's ignoring anything that's transparency. If you turned off all these other layers, you would see that this text and these shapes are on a background of transparency, and that's why it's important when you're creating a new document to check that little box, transparency. Okay, so once again, we have the selection made. We're not going to invert it so it selects everything but. Okay, so there's the selection. Let's go and invert it. Invert selection, and let's pick our layer and punch our holes. There you have it. Okay, all right, well, I thought you might find that to be kind of cool. And so yeah, lots and lots of uses for this. Let your imagination go wild. It's a great way to add textures to things, great way to punch windows in things, so as you can see with the circle and rectangle, to act as a reveal or a frame inside of another photo showing something else. So you could have someone's picture back there peeking through the rectangle and things like that. All right, so there's your wonderful punch holes tutorial for today. Thanks a lot for watching, and remember to always subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're notified to get more of these things. Please comment in the comments section. I always respond to comments practically the same day, usually the same day. And I love the dialogue, and I love clarifying things. So if you got any questions, or if you have any brilliant ideas of uses of this thing, share them. Throw in a link to your examples, whatever. Okay? But definitely have fun. Remember, this is all about creativity and having fun. So do that and have a great time. Bye-bye.